The Lagos sun burned hot on the glass doors of the supermarket. Jerry Anderson, the billionaire CEO of Gentech, stood at the top of the stairs in a crisp navy caftan and red cap. His face was tight with anger. An old woman in a torn blue Ankara dress clutched the rail and reached for him with trembling fingers. "Sir, please," she whispered. "Just bread. I haven't eaten." Jerry's jaw clenched. He had warned this same woman earlier to leave his car alone. She had followed him from the parking lot, from the doors, and now to the steps. Security watched, unsure. Jerry lifted his right hand high, his palm shaking with a mix of shame and rage. He did not understand. And then a voice cut through the heat and the noise. "Don't slap her. She's your missing mother." The sound was clear and firm, like a bell. Jerry froze. Everyone turned. At the edge of the steps stood a young woman in a tattered ash gown, mud stains on the hem, hair wild and falling around her face. She was thin, but her eyes were bright and steady. She had one hand raised toward Jerry, the other held close to her chest, as if to protect a secret. Jerry stared, breath stalled in his chest. "My what?" he said, voice low, afraid to make it true. "Your mother," the young woman said. "Don't touch her." For a heartbeat, everything went still. The traffic, the crowd, even the old woman's breath. The only sound was a soft flutter, the old woman's scarf shaking in the wind. 10 minutes earlier, Jerry had stepped out of his black SUV with his driver behind him. Banana Island meetings had run long, and he needed to grab a few things himself. He walked with the quick steps of a man used to moving the world. He didn't see the eyes that watched him from the edge of the lot. He didn't see the young woman in the ash gown step out from under the bridge nearby, hugging herself. He didn't see the old woman on the curb, holding an empty plastic bowl. The old woman had called out once, twice softly. "My son," she had said to no one. "God, please." By the time Jerry reached the doors, security had already tried to move her away. She would not go. Not today. Something had pulled her to this place, some hope that had refused to die. Now, back at the top of the stairs, Jerry tried to steady his voice. "Who are you?" he asked the young woman. "And how do you know this old woman is my?" He could not finish the word. The crowd had pushed closer. Phones were up high. The young woman moved forward, careful, respectful, as if she were stepping into holy ground. "My name is Amara," she said. "I don't have much, but I have one gift. I read faces. I see the small things most people miss. I saw you from the road. I saw her waiting here, and I knew." "You knew what?" Jerry asked, his voice sharper now to hide the fear that rose in him like smoke. "That the same story lives on both your faces," Amara said softly. "The same pain around the eyes, the same way your mouth tightens before you speak, and something else." She turned to the old woman. "Mama, may I see your right wrist?" The old woman, Madame Amaka, though no one knew her name, yet lifted her thin arm. Years had drawn maps on her skin. Amara's fingers were gentle as she pushed the frayed sleeve up. There, near the veins, was a small dark birthmark, shaped like a comma. Amara turned to Jerry. "Sir," she said, "show yours." Jerry swallowed. His driver took a step forward, as if to stop him. Jerry shook his head. Slowly, he pulled up his right sleeve. The crowd leaned in. There it was, the same small mark, a comma resting by a blue vein. The sound that rose from the steps was not loud. It was a soft, full gasp, like a door opening where there had been only wall. Jerry's hand dropped. His eyes darted from his wrist to the old woman's face. She was crying now, quietly, the tears running down into lines that had waited for this day. "I had this since birth," Jerry said, voice cracking. "My mother had it too. She went missing 15 years ago. We searched everywhere. His words broke. He stepped closer, falling to his knees on the hot stone. His palm went to his chest, as if to hold his heart in place. "Mama?" he whispered. The words small, lost, and found all at once. "Mama, where have you been?" The old woman reached for his face with both hands, fingers shaking as they touched his cheeks, like she was blessing a child. Her lips quivered. "My son," she breathed. "My Jerry. I have looked for you in every face I saw." Jerry's tears fell fast. He pressed his forehead to the back of her hand. "Forgive me," he said, shaking his head. I didn't know. I was about to..." He couldn't say, slap. The word was too ugly to fit in his mouth. "It is over," she said. "Today it is over." The driver blinked hard, swallowing. Even the security guard looked away to hide wet eyes. On the steps, strangers stood with hands on their mouths, as if trying to hold their own hearts steady. Amara stood beside them, quiet, still, as if she had only opened a door the world had been waiting to open. Up close, Jerry saw that the mud on her gown had dried in long, stiff lines. He saw the hunger pressed into her cheeks. He saw the steadiness that lived in her eyes. "Amara," Jerry whispered, as if saying it to himself would make sense of the moment. "How did you know?" "I told you," she said. "I read faces. It is a strange gift, I know. I don't know how to make money from it, but I know when a face belongs to another face." The old woman held Jerry's hand. "I have been gone too long, my son," she said, voice weak. "Too long." "What happened?" Jerry asked. "How?" Her body swayed. The heat, the hunger, the tears, all of it crashed through her at once. Jerry caught her as her knees gave way. The crowd stepped back. Someone shouted, "Give them air." Someone else cried, "Water." Jerry stood with his mother in his arms, fear cutting through the joy like glass. "Driver," he shouted, "start the car, we're going to the hospital now." The driver ran. Security cleared a path as the crowd parted. For a second, the old woman lifted her eyes and tried to smile. "You still look like your father when you're angry," she whispered. Jerry's breath caught. He looked at Amara. "You're coming with us," he said, not as a question. "Please." Amara nodded once. She moved fast, her bare feet almost silent on the steps. She held the supermarket door for them to pass, then ran after them toward the car. The black SUV door opened wide, blasting cool air out into the heat. Inside the SUV, Jerry placed his mother gently on the seat, his hands shaking. Amara slipped in next to her and lifted the old woman's head onto her lap. "Mama," she said softly, "stay with us. We're almost there." The driver pulled out, tires rolling hard over the curb. The city blurred by billboards, yellow buses, hawkers waving sachet water. Jerry dialed his hospital contact with trembling fingers. "Prepare a bed," he said. "Now." "It's my mother." He looked back. The old woman's chest rose and fell in shallow waves. Her fingers searched for his, and found them. Jerry squeezed her hand, the way a boy might squeeze a light in the dark. "I took so long," he whispered. "But I found you." Amara watched him. Something soft moved across her face. Hope, maybe. The kind that hurts because it is too good to be true. She brushed a strand of hair from Madame Amaka's forehead. "You will be fine, Mama," she murmured. "Today is not your last day." Traffic opened like a gift. The SUV flew down the road, tall buildings sliding by like slow ships. The hospital gates came into view. Then, just as the driver turned in, Madame Amaka's body went still. Her eyes fluttered. Her hand slipped from Jerry's grip. "Mama?" Jerry said, voice tiny, as if the word might break if he spoke too loud. "Mama, please." The SUV screeched to a stop. Nurses at the entrance saw them and ran with a stretcher. The driver jumped out. Jerry picked his mother up, his heart in his throat, the world rushing into a tunnel. "Sir, this way," a nurse shouted. Jerry took a step and felt a tap on his arm. He turned. Amara's eyes were wide, but her voice was steady. "Jerry," she said. "Wait, look at her wrist." He looked down. The small comma birthmark seemed darker now, like ink fresh on paper. And just above it, hidden under the frayed edge of the sleeve, was something else thin. Bruised circles, like marks left by iron long ago. "What happened to her?" Jerry whispered. Amara lifted her eyes to his. "I don't know," she said, "but someone did not want her to be found." The stretcher reached them. Nurses reached out with quick, trained hands. "Sir," the lead nurse cried, "we have to move now." Jerry nodded, tears burning his eyes. He set his jaw, held his mother tighter, and stepped forward into the bright, cold light of the hospital doors, and straight into a truth that would change everything. The automatic glass doors slid open with a sharp hiss as Jerry carried Madame Amaka into the emergency ward. Nurses rushed toward him with a stretcher, their white shoes squeaking against the polished tiles. The smell of antiseptic wrapped the air, cold and biting, while the fluorescent lights above turned everything into harsh shadows. "BP check, prepare oxygen," one nurse barked, her eyes darting from Jerry to the frail old woman in his arms. Jerry laid his mother gently onto the stretcher. His hand lingered on hers as the nurses rolled her away. "Don't leave me again," he whispered, almost to himself. Amara followed close, still barefoot, her torn ash gown drawing stares. But her eyes never left Madame Amaka. She kept whispering soft encouragements, almost like prayers, as if her voice alone could hold the old woman to life. They were led into a treatment room. The doctor on call, a tall man with a calm face and a stethoscope swinging around his neck, stepped forward. "Sir, you'll need to wait outside while we stabilize her." "No," Jerry snapped, shaking his head. "She's my mother. 15 years I thought she was dead. You are not pushing me away now." His voice cracked, the strong tone breaking into something raw. The doctor hesitated. Amara touched Jerry's arm lightly. "Let them work. Please." Her voice was soft, but it had the weight of reason. Jerry looked at her, saw the mud still clinging to her dress, the weariness etched into her face, and wondered why her presence calmed him so quickly. With a heavy breath, he nodded and stepped back. The door closed. Behind the glass, Jerry could see the nurses moving quickly, straps, IV tubes, oxygen masks. His knuckles turned white where he gripped the railing of the hallway. Minutes dragged like hours. Every second pounded against his chest like a hammer. He had built empires, signed billion-dollar contracts, and stood in rooms with presidents. Yet here, in this hospital corridor, he was just a boy again, waiting for his mother to return from somewhere unknown. Amara sat on a bench nearby, her head bowed, lips moving silently in prayer. She looked like someone used to waiting, someone who had known loss long enough to make peace with it, but who still fought for hope anyway. Jerry's driver approached carefully. "Sir," he said, voice low, "should I call the family?" Jerry turned sharply. "There is no family," he said. His eyes flicked to Amara, then softened. "Not anymore. Just her. And maybe—" He stopped himself. The driver nodded and stepped back. The door swung open. The doctor emerged, pulling off his gloves. Jerry's heart nearly leaped out of his chest. "Doctor? She is stable for now," the doctor said. Relief spread across Jerry's face, but it was cut short by the doctor's next words. "But her body shows signs of long-term malnourishment and trauma." Jerry frowned. "What kind of trauma?" The doctor's eyes flicked to the bruised rings around Madame Amaka's wrist. Restraints, possibly chains, old scars too. Whatever happened to her, it was not just being lost on the streets. Jerry's stomach twisted. His mind flashed back to the hidden marks Amara had pointed out earlier. His jaw tightened. "I need answers," he muttered. The doctor continued. "For now, she needs rest, food, care, and family around her." His voice softened. "She called your name while she was fading. She hasn't forgotten you." Jerry's eyes burned with tears. He pressed a hand over his face, exhaling sharply. For 15 years, he had searched newspapers, paid detectives, followed every rumor of missing women. Nothing had led him here. And yet she had been so close, too close all this time. Amara stood. "Can I see her?" she asked. The doctor nodded. "Yes, but quietly." Jerry followed Amara into the room. The sight nearly broke him. Madame Amaka lay on the bed, her face pale against the white pillow, oxygen tubes running under her nose. Yet even in weakness, her features glowed with a strange peace. Jerry sat by her side and took her hand. It was warm now, not cold like before. "Mama," he whispered, tears sliding down his cheeks. "I thought I lost you forever." Her eyelids fluttered. Slowly, she opened her eyes. Her gaze landed on him, and for a moment it was as if the years had fallen away. "My Jerry," she whispered, voice faint but steady. "You grew into a man, and I was not there to see it." Jerry's throat closed. He lowered his head to her hand, pressing his lips against her skin. "I would trade all my wealth if it meant having you back sooner." She stroked his hair weakly. "Don't cry. I am here now." Amara stood by the bed, silent, her eyes shining with quiet tears. Something about this moment carved deep into her chest, a reminder of what she had lost and what she had just helped restore. Jerry looked up at her. "Amara, you saved me from the worst mistake of my life. You saved us both." Amara shook her head. "I only spoke what I saw." "No," Jerry said firmly. "You gave me my mother back. Do you understand that? Without you, I would have raised my hand against the very woman who gave me life." His voice broke again. "I owe you everything." Amara swallowed hard, her own story pressed at the back of her throat, but she wasn't ready to tell it yet. The doctor entered quietly, placing a chart at the end of the bed. "She'll need to stay here for observation. A few days at least. Then she'll need a safe place to recover." Jerry nodded. "She will have it." He turned back to Amara. "You too. You don't belong under a bridge." Amara blinked, startled. "Me?" "Yes," Jerry said. "You're coming with us. When Mama leaves this hospital, you will come too." Amara hesitated, her fingers clutching the edge of her gown. I don't belong in your world. Look at me." Jerry leaned forward. "Amara, look at me. You belong where people see you for who you are, not what life has done to you." The room fell into silence, heavy with meaning. Madame Amaka's hand tightened weakly around Jerry's. Her lips moved. Both Jerry and Amara leaned close to hear. "Take care of each other," she whispered, before sleep claimed her again. Jerry looked at Amara. She looked back. For a moment, the air between them was charged, as if something unseen had just shifted. But before either could speak, the door banged open. A nurse rushed in, breathless. "Mr. Anderson," she said, eyes wide, "we just found something you need to see. It's about your mother." Jerry's heart slammed against his ribs. "What is it?" The nurse held up a small rusted chain link, wrapped in cloth. This was hidden inside her dress pocket when she came in. Amara's eyes widened. Jerry froze, staring at the metal, his mind racing with questions he wasn't ready to face. Who had chained his mother? And why was she carrying a piece of it with her after all these years? The answer, Jerry knew, was a storm waiting to break, and it was only just beginning. The hospital room had gone still. The small piece of chain the nurse held shimmered under the fluorescent light, dull and rusted, but heavy with meaning. Jerry stared at it, as if it were alive, a silent witness to horrors his mother had endured. "Where did you find this?" Jerry asked, his voice low but sharp. The nurse shifted nervously. "Inside the folds of her dress, sir. It looked like she hid it there, almost as if she wanted someone to discover it." Amara's breath caught. She stepped closer, her fingers brushing the edge of the cloth. "She kept it close, maybe because it is proof of who did this to her." Jerry clenched his jaw, his knuckles white against the hospital bed railing. "Then whoever chained my mother is still out there, and they thought I'd never find her." His eyes darkened, carrying a promise of reckoning. Madame Amaka stirred faintly, as if she could sense the storm in the room. Her frail body shifted, her hand twitching against the sheets. Jerry immediately softened, leaning down to press her hand against his chest. "Mama," he whispered. "Rest. I'll find the truth. I'll bring it to you." Amara watched him, her heart tightening. For a billionaire who was known for his pride, arrogance, and distance, Jerry looked more like a broken boy, desperate to protect the one person who had ever loved him unconditionally. Later that night, Jerry stood in the hospital corridor, his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was controlled, but each word dripped with fury. "Detective Solar, it's me," he said. "Drop everything. I don't care if you're in Abuja or Port Harcourt. Get to Lagos now. My mother has been found, and I have reason to believe she was kept hidden against her will." A pause. Then Jerry's lips curved into a grim line. "Yes, I'll pay whatever it takes. Just get here." He ended the call, slipping the phone into his pocket. When he turned, Amara was standing behind him, her gown even more tattered under the harsh hospital lights. "You mean to investigate?" she said softly. Jerry nodded. "Wouldn't you? Someone stole 15 years of my life with her. They let me grieve, let me bury an empty coffin. They made me into a man with no roots, no mother. That chain," his voice cracked, "is not just a piece of metal. It's a curse that someone put on her." Amara's eyes glistened, but her tone was steady. "Sometimes the truth destroys more than lies." Jerry's gaze locked on hers. "And sometimes it frees." Past midnight, the hospital ward was quiet. Only the steady beep of machines and the occasional shuffle of nurses broke the silence. Jerry sat by his mother's bed, head bowed, exhaustion tugging at his eyes. Amara sat across from him, her thin arms wrapped around herself for warmth. She was watching Madame Amaka, but her mind was far away, lost in shadows. The door creaked open. a tall man in a dark coat slipped inside. His eyes darted nervously around the room until they landed on Jerry. "Mr. Anderson," he whispered urgently, "I shouldn't be here, but I knew your mother once." Jerry sat up sharply. "Who are you?" "My name is Samuel," the man said, lowering his hood. His face was weathered, his beard streaked with grey. "I used to work for a family, your uncle's family." Jerry's body went rigid. "Uncle Chike?" Samuel nodded. "Yes, and I know where that chain came from." The room froze. Even Amara leaned forward, her breath shallow. "Speak," Jerry demanded. Samuel's eyes flicked nervously to the door. "Your uncle, he feared your mother. She knew secrets about the inheritance your father left behind, secrets that would have exposed him. So he had her taken." Jerry's blood ran cold. "Taken?" Samuel swallowed. "Kidnapped, hidden away. For years, she was moved from one place to another, sometimes tied, sometimes locked. They never planned to kill her, just to erase her, to make you forget." Jerry's fists trembled. "You're lying. My uncle was family. He helped me take over the company after my father died." Samuel's eyes softened with pity. "And he helped himself to what was never his. Your mother was the only one who could have stopped him." The words crashed into Jerry like waves against stone. His vision blurred with rage. Amara reached across the bed and touched Jerry's hand. "Listen to him," she urged. Jerry jerked away, pacing the floor like a caged lion. "If this is true, then I've been living in the house of a thief, eating with a traitor, smiling at a murderer." "Murderer?" Amara whispered. "Yes," Jerry spat. "Because to steal 15 years from my mother is to kill her in pieces." Madame Amaka's voice cut through the air, faint but sharp. "Jerry." They all froze. Jerry rushed to her side, his anger collapsing into fear. "Mama, don't strain yourself." Her eyes fluttered open, pain etched deep in their lines. He tells the truth." Jerry's heart shattered. "What?" Her voice was weak but steady. "Your uncle, he feared me. I tried to protect you, but they dragged me away. I prayed every night that one day you would see me again." Tears rolled down Jerry's face as he gripped her hand. "Mama, I swear on my life I will make them pay, no matter what it takes. In resist, in the dentras a divin, and the devolution reacher." Madame Amaka's lips trembled in a faint smile. "Don't lose yourself, my son. Revenge is a fire. It burns everything, even the one who lights it." Her words cut deep, but Jerry's anger was already a wildfire. He turned to Samuel. "Where is he now?" Samuel hesitated. "In Abuja, surrounded by guards. But he doesn't know your mother has been found." "Not yet." Jerry's jaw hardened. "Then we have the advantage." Hours later, as dawn broke and light spilled across the hospital floor, Jerry stood at the window, staring at the rising Sunday. His mind was a battlefield. Amara approached quietly. "You mean to go after him?" Jerry didn't turn. "I don't have a choice." "Yes, you do," she said firmly. "You can care for your mother, heal her, build a life with her again. Don't let anger drag you where love is waiting." Her words struck him like arrows. He turned sharply, eyes burning. "And if you were me, Amara, if someone chained your mother for 15 years, would you sit here and smile while he dined on stolen wealth?" Amara flinched, but her gaze held steady. "No, but I would fight with wisdom, not wrath. Wrath will blind you, and blindness is how they win." Jerry studied her, torn between fury and the strange peace her voice carried. At last, he spoke. "Then fight with me. If you saved my mother once, maybe you can save me too." Amara's lips parted in shock. She had lived her life on the streets, unseen and forgotten. Now a billionaire was asking her to walk into war by his side. Her heart pounded. She wanted to say no. But something in Jerry's eyes, a desperate boy hiding in the shadow of a powerful man, made her whisper, "Yes." Suddenly, the hospital lights flickered. The machines beeped louder. A nurse rushed in, panic in her eyes. "Mr. Anderson, your mother, her blood pressure is dropping." Jerry spun around, horror gripping him. Madame Amaka's frail body trembled, her skin growing pale. "Mama!" Jerry shouted, grabbing her hand. Doctors stormed in with equipment, shouting medical terms Jerry couldn't hear. Amara clutched the wall, praying desperately under her breath. In the chaos, Madame Amaka's eyes fluttered open one last time. She gasped a single word, voice faint but clear. "Beware." The monitor let out a sharp, continuous beep. Jerry froze, his world tilting. "Mama?" But the doctors were already moving fast, performing compressions, and Jerry realized his fight for truth had only just begun. The wail of the monitor still echoed in Jerry's mind, even after the doctors had stabilized Madame Amaka. Hours had passed, yet the memory clung to him like wet clothes, his mother's faint voice, her last whispered warning. "Beware." He sat in the corner of the hospital room, face buried in his palms. He was a billionaire, yet powerless before a frail woman's fading heartbeat. The chain, the nurse's discovery, Samuel's confession, everything swirled in his head until rage became the only anchor he had left. Across from him, Amara watched quietly. Her eyes were heavy with concern, but her hands never stopped moving, folding napkins, adjusting the blanket at Madame Amaka's feet, whispering prayers beneath her breath. She was the only calm in a storm that threatened to drown Jerry whole. At dawn, Detective Solar finally arrived. He was a broad-shouldered man, with eyes sharp as broken glass, and the calm authority of someone who had walked through too many dark alleys of Lagos. "Mr. Anderson," he said, lowering his voice. "I came as soon as I could. Tell me everything." Jerry explained it all, the chain, the testimony of Samuel, his mother's weakened confirmation. Solar listened without interruption, though his jaw tightened when Jerry mentioned Uncle Chike. When Jerry finished, silence settled over the room. Then Solar spoke. "If what you're saying is true, this is no simple family dispute. It's conspiracy, fraud, possibly attempted murder." Jerry leaned forward. "Then help me end it." Solar's eyes narrowed. "Justice, Mr. Anderson, not vengeance." Jerry's lips tightened. He said nothing. By evening, Jerry made his decision. He would leave for Abuja to confront his uncle, not in anger, but in search of answers that had been buried for too long. Amara stood in the hospital corridor, blocking his path. "You can't leave her like this," she said, her voice trembling. "Your mother is still fighting for her life." Jerry's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the war inside him. "I'm not leaving her. I'm protecting her. If Chike learns she is alive, he will finish what he started. Abuja holds the truth, Amara. I have to dig it out with my own hands." "And if you fall into his trap?" she asked. Jerry looked at her, long and hard. "Then at least I'll know I tried." For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. Then Amara lowered her gaze. "Then I'm going with you." Jerry blinked. "No, it's too dangerous. You asked me to fight with you." Amara reminded him softly. "Don't change your mind now." Something in her eyes, raw determination, wrapped in quiet pain, silenced his protest. He nodded. "Then we go together." Abuja's skyline rose in the distance, like a promise and a threat. Jerry's private jet touched down under cover of night, the city lights casting long shadows across the tarmac. A black SUV waited for them, courtesy of Detective Solar, who had contacts in the capital. Inside, Jerry sat stiff, his hands gripping the leather seat. Amara sat beside him, her worn gown replaced by a simple borrowed dress that still hung loosely on her frame. Yet her presence was steady, grounding him. Solar rode in the front seat, his gaze scanning the roads. "Chike is careful," he warned. "He surrounds himself with men loyal to his wallet. We can't confront him directly without proof. We need to catch him off guard." Jerry's jaw tightened. "Then that's what we'll do." Uncle Chike's mansion loomed over the Abuja hills like a fortress. Iron gates towered high, guarded by men in dark uniforms. The building itself glowed with golden lights, its marble walls reflecting wealth stolen in silence. Jerry's stomach churned. For years, he had walked through these halls as a nephew, unaware he was standing in the den of a betrayer. Solar's plan was simple but dangerous. Tonight, Chike is hosting a gathering. Politicians, businessmen, powerful friends. He will be distracted. We slip inside, gather evidence, and confront him when he least expects it. Jerry glanced at Amara. She looked terrified, yet she lifted her chin. "Let's end this," she whispered. Inside the mansion, the air buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Chike stood at the center of it all, dressed in an expensive agbada, embroidered with gold thread, his booming laughter echoing across the hall. When his eyes fell on Jerry, his smile froze. "Jerry," My boy. What a surprise. Jerry stepped forward, his presence silencing the crowd. Cut the act, uncle. You know why I'm here. Chike's eyes flicked briefly to Amara, then to Sola standing at Jerry's side. His smile returned, but thinner this time. I don't know what lies you've been told, but you should be careful throwing accusations in front of men who respect me. Jerry's voice thundered across the hall. Where is my mother? The room gasped. A murmur ran through the guests. Chike's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, his eyes narrowing before he recovered. Your mother? Jerry, she died 15 years ago. You buried her. Don't tell me grief has driven you to madness. Jerry pulled the rusted chain from his pocket and held it high. Then explain this. Explain why she was found on the streets of Lagos, half dead, carrying the proof of what you did to her. Gasps erupted around the room. Chike's face turned pale. Sola stepped forward, his badge flashing. Chike Anderson, you are under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, and unlawful imprisonment. You'd better start talking. But before Chike could reply, the lights in the hall flickered. Then blackout. Screams filled the mansion. Guards scrambled. Guests panicked. In the darkness, Jerry felt Amara's hand grip his tightly. Stay close, he shouted. Gunshots cracked in the dark. Glass shattered. Then, as quickly as it had gone, the light snapped back on. Chike was gone. So were two of his closest guards. Sola cursed under his breath. He planned this. Someone tipped him off. Jerry's heart pounded in his chest. His mother's warning echoed in his head. Asterisk. Beware. Asterisk. He turned to Amara, his voice raw. He knew we were coming. Someone close to us betrayed us. Amara's eyes widened, fear mixing with confusion. But who? Jerry didn't answer. His rage had grown into something darker, now a storm too big to contain. As the guests scattered, Jerry stood in the center of the ruined hall, his eyes scanning the broken glass and abandoned drinks. Sola barked orders into his phone, summoning reinforcements. Then Jerry's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Hesitating, he answered. A deep, mocking voice filled his ear. Jerry, my dear nephew, you want the truth? Come find me. But beware, truth comes at a cost, and your mother may not survive to see it. The line went dead. Jerry froze, his hand trembling around the phone. Amara's eyes searched his face. What did he say? Jerry's lips pressed into a hard line. He has her. He has Mama. The words shattered the last pieces of his composure. And in that moment, Jerry knew this was no longer about justice. It was war. The morning sun spread its golden arms across Lagos, painting the city with hope. For Jerry, that day was more than a sunrise. It was a rebirth. The nightmarish years of searching, mourning, and anger were behind him. For the first time in 15 years, he was not a lonely billionaire haunted by loss. He had found his mother, Madame Amaka, and he had found Amara, the stranger whose courage had opened the door to destiny. But before they stepped into this new life, Jerry had one thought. They deserved dignity. Jerry's convoy pulled up outside the most prestigious salon in Victoria Island. The glass doors slid open to reveal chandeliers glistening above a spotless white floor. Stylists paused mid-motion when they saw Madame Amaka step inside, her tattered ankara wrapped tightly around her frail frame, and Amara with mud stains on her faded gown. The staff whispered, their eyes wide with surprise, until Jerry's voice broke the silence. Treat them like queens, he ordered. His tone carried no room for hesitation. My mother and someone very important to me. The stylists bowed respectfully, guiding Madame Amaka and Amara to plush seats. Madame Amaka sank into the chair, trembling. She had not known such comfort in years. As warm water washed over her silver-threaded hair, tears slid down her cheeks. My son, she whispered to Jerry, who stood nearby watching. I never thought I would feel this again. Jerry bent and kissed her forehead. Mama, you deserve more than this. This is only the beginning. Amara, too, sat nervously, unsure if she belonged in such a place. A stylist gently combed through her disheveled hair, transforming it into a neat bun. They scrubbed her hands and feet, painted her nails, and wrapped her in a fresh gown of soft lavender. She caught her reflection in the mirror and gasped. For the first time since her parents died, she saw herself not as a broken girl, but as a woman alive again. Jerry's chest tightened. He had never seen resilience look so beautiful. From the salon, they walked into a boutique next door. Rows of elegant gowns, suits, and accessories gleamed under bright lights. Jerry moved with quiet command, pointing at outfits. This for my mother. This for Amara. Madame Amaka received a royal blue lace wrapper and head tie. Amara received a simple but elegant peach gown that hugged her figure with grace. By the time they emerged from the boutique, both women looked transformed, one like a queen restored, the other like a star newly discovered. Passers-by paused, staring at the trio with awe. When the convoy finally rolled into Jerry's mansion in Ikoyi, Madame Amaka's mouth fell open. Marble pillars rose to the sky, fountains danced in the courtyard, and manicured gardens stretched like paradise. She clutched Jerry's hand tightly. Chineke, Jerry, you were still in secondary school when I went missing. And now, her voice broke, now I return to find my son, a man, and not just a man, but a great man. Her tears flowed freely, and Jerry wrapped her in his arms. Mama, everything I am is because of you. Even when I thought you were gone, I carried your voice in my heart. Amara stood a few steps back, overwhelmed. How did I get here, she thought. Just hours ago, I was begging for food under the bridge. And now, I'm in the mansion of Lagos's most famous billionaire. Jerry turned, his gaze locking on hers. You belong here too, Amara. Don't ever doubt it. ND4. That evening, inside the grand living room, Jerry sat across from his mother. Amara perched on the edge of the sofa, listening intently. The crackle of the fireplace filled the silence until Jerry finally asked, Mama, what happened? How did you disappear? Madame Amaka's face grew heavy. With trembling lips, she began. 15 years ago, I was coming home from the market. A car blocked my path. Men dragged me inside. I fought, but they beat me. They took me to a man's house, a man who wanted me for himself. He forced me to live in the underground of his mansion. He said if I ever tried to escape, he would kill me. Jerry's fists clenched, his knuckles whitening. I cried every day, she continued, tears streaming down her face. Not for myself, but for you. You were still a boy. I feared how life would be for you as an orphan. For 12 years, I lived in that prison. Then one day, the man slipped on the stairs and died. I escaped, but by then, I had no idea where you were. I wandered the streets, begging for food, praying one day God would connect us again. And 2 days ago, he did through this angel, Amara. Jerry reached for her hand, weeping silently. Amara, too, had tears in her eyes. When Madame Amaka finished, the room was soaked in grief and relief. Jerry turned to Amara. And you? Tell me your story. Amara swallowed hard. I graduated as the best software engineer in my class. On the day of my graduation, while my parents were returning from the ceremony, they had an accident. They both died. Her voice cracked. I lost my mind. I rejected offers from big tech companies because what was the point without them? Depression ate me alive. I ended up under the bridge, homeless, forgotten. She lowered her gaze. Until that day, when I stopped you from slapping your mother. Jerry's chest heaved. He reached across and took her hand gently. You saved us both, Amara. Jerry wasted no time. He hired nannies and staff to care for Madame Amaka, treating her like the queen she was always meant to be. For Amara, he offered a position at his company, Gentech. On her first day, Amara felt out of place in her new office, but she worked tirelessly. Her sharp mind and innovative spirit soon transformed projects. By the end of the year, she was named Employee of the Year. Applause thundered at the company's annual dinner as she walked to the stage, tears in her eyes, holding the plaque. Jerry stood, clapping the loudest, pride shining in his gaze. Their closeness grew quietly. Dinners on the balcony, laughter in the garden, long talks about pain, dreams, and second chances. One night, under the mansion's starry garden, Jerry took Amara's hand. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. Amara, I lost 15 years to grief, but finding you has shown me that life can still be beautiful. You are my second chance, just as you gave me my mother back. Will you marry me? Amara gasped, her eyes flooding with tears. She nodded, unable to speak. Yes, she finally whispered. Yes, Jerry. Madame Amaka, watching from the balcony, came forward with tears in her eyes. She embraced them both, whispering blessings over their union. 2 months later, Lagos stood still for the wedding of the year. The most expensive event hall glittered with chandeliers and flowers. Guests from across Nigeria filled the hall. As the music swelled, Madam Amaka walked her son and new daughter-in-law down the aisle, her hands trembling with joy. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She had been denied 15 years, but she was there for this. Amara's voice broke during her speech. "Few years ago, I thought my life had ended. I was wasting away under a bridge, lost in grief. But God gave me a second chance. He used me to connect Jerry and his mother, and in the process, he gave me family, love, and a future. Today, I am not only an employee at Gentech, I am the wife of its CEO, the man I helped reunite with his mother." The audience was in tears. Applause thundered, filling the hall. A year later, Jerry and Amara welcomed their first child, a baby boy named Sam, after Amara's late father. When Madam Amaka carried her grandson, her hands trembled, her eyes brimming with tears. "This," she whispered, rocking the baby gently, "is the miracle I prayed for. My son restored, my daughter found, and my grandson in my arms. God is faithful." Jerry and Amara stood beside her, their hands intertwined. The mansion garden echoed with laughter, a sound that had been missing for too long. At last, their story had turned from tears to triumph. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.